Hi everyone and welcome back. This video is titled Police Orders Woman to Open Her Trunk. Has no idea that she's recording behind his back. I've got a weird feeling about this one. On her way to complete an important errand, Chinese stacker got pulled over by an officer. Just like an obedient citizen, she quickly went on to grab the papers and her driving license. "Ma'am, please open your truck," the officer demanded. Chai at once obeyed and gave access to her truck. Some time passed, but he seemed to still be fiddling with something inside the trunk. Only he had no idea that the women had been secretly recording, and the whole world was about to learn the terrible truth he was trying to hide. It was a rather normal day, but quite an important one for Chinese. She had a very important interview lined up and she wanted to make no mistakes. So, she got up early that morning, took a quick shower, and hit the roads. Little did she know that quickly her day would turn into a dreadful nightmare. It was around midday. Chai was driving through the highway, carefully sticking to her lane. Listening to her favorite band on the radio, she suddenly saw the blue and red lights go on behind her car. Although she found it weird, being the law-abiding citizen that she was, Chai gave her a left indicator and decided to stop. She didn't think much of it other than a routine check. And that was probably her biggest mistake. As soon as the officer got out of his car, Chai took a deep breath, preparing herself for what was about to come. It was not as if she was hiding something, but being pulled over can be quite overwhelming for the best of the folks. She again thought to herself, was I driving too fast? I also heard signals at every turn. So what could be the reason behind the officer stopping me? While waiting in her car, Chai decided to get her papers out. So, she started looking through her glove box for registration, her insurance information, and a few other papers that the officer might ask for. Before we continue, if you like this video, please like, comment, or subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it. Now back to the video. As soon as the officer approached her car, she rolled down her window. But before she could say anything or present the documents, the officer informed her about something that made her even more nervous. Instead of being aggressive and strict, the officer called Jenkins told her not to bother looking for the documents. He told her that he asked to pull over to inform her about something rather important. The officer patiently explained to her that the brake lights of her car seemed broken. This turned out to be stressful news, and she was left confused. Hearing this, she was expecting the officer to issue her a ticket for driving with broken brake lights. Chai was well aware that this was a bigger issue than it seemed, as this could easily cause a major accident on the road. The very last thing she needed right now was an expensive fine and having to pay for the repair. But instead of starting to print the fine, the officer did something that Chinese couldn't believe. "Not yet," she exclaimed to the officer. She tried to explain herself, saying, "I got the lights replaced just a month before, they shouldn't be out yet." She also told him that Firestone charged her $600 to run a test on the wiring to make sure that it was functioning properly. Fearing the ticket and expensive repairs, she broke down and told the officer about her unemployment. "I am on my way to a job interview and right now I don't have enough money to get the lights fixed," she said emotionally with teary eyes. This melted his heart. This poor unemployed woman had been taken advantage of by a major corporation, and they left her with a car that's dangerous to drive, which she had no idea about. "This seems unfair," the officer exclaimed. He looked at her with shock and disbelief, feeling pity for her. He then asked her to pop her car trunk. This made her even more nervous. Why would he search the trunk now, she thought to herself. Chinese quickly obeyed the orders and popped open the trunk for the officer to investigate further. She got out of the car and followed the officer towards the trunk. She hoped and prayed that the trunk doesn't add up to the trouble she already had. He leaned forward to get closer to the trunk, and what he did next was completely unbelievable. When he got inside, he began moving the wires around. He was tapping the lights to see if he could get them to turn on. Chinese couldn't believe her eyes. She was expecting Officer Jenkins to issue her a ticket for driving with faulty lights. Instead, he was trying to help her. Chinese was so shocked by what was happening that she decided to do something unexpected. This sight melted her heart. She felt a lot different than ever and quickly grabbed her phone. She opened the camera and started recording the entire situation. It was a heart-touching moment for her. But this wasn't the end of it. What she did next was more surprising. She started filming the officer and wanted to show to people how amazing this guy was. So, as soon as she reached home, the first thing she ensured was that people got to know about this amazing officer. Chai posted the entire recording on Facebook along with a complete description of all that had happened. She didn't forget to mention a single detail of the incident. The officer could have easily handed over a ticket for the broken lights, but he didn't. Instead, Officer Jenkins stepped out of his role of a police officer and became a mechanic. He wanted to make sure that the lights would work. All he wished for was her to drive safely on the road. Social media becomes very handy when one wishes to spread some news, regardless of how good or bad it is and what effect it can ever have on the subject. Chinese posted her story on Facebook. It quickly went viral in just a few days. The post received over 388,000 likes, and it was shared over 90,800 times, becoming Chai's most viral story of all time. It's pretty common for people to share their incidents of encounters with police, and it's quite expected to receive negative reviews for the officer's behavior. The reason this post went viral so quickly is that it was a story about a police officer who went above and beyond to help out the driver. And he deserved all the recognition. He didn't want her to give a hard time by handing a ticket. Rather, being the good Samaritan that he was, Officer Jenkins decided to help her out. All he was worried about was getting her back on the road again safely without needing to worry about her being rear-ended. So, he did what he had to. It turned out to be a rather special incident for Chinese Stacker. She'd never met such a humble officer in her life and was touched by his act of kindness. Officer Jenkins became a hero in Chinese's mind and for other citizens too. People like him are a blessing to society, commented several on the post. The Henrico County Police Department wanted to thank the officer themselves. They shared her photo and created their own post where they thanked Chinese for appreciating the officer's kind efforts. They also thanked Officer Jenkins for making the department proud and becoming an inspiration for others. Such acts of kindness never go dry, do that? That's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. As always, if you like this video, please like, comment, or subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.